Well, thank you so much. Now, with that song is how we've decided to begin our Good Morning Uganda Extra on this Thursday morning. My name is Jagan Semakula Ziksoka. It's raining in Kampala. It's just 5 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock this morning. Welcome, and thank you so much for choosing to be with us right again here on our Good Morning Uganda Extra. And of course, joining me in studios is Dr. Patrick Ojok. He's a senior lecturer at Chambogo University and also the team leader for the Karamoja Monitoring Network, or CAMNET. You're very welcome, Dr. Ojok. Patrick.
Thank you so much, Semakula, and thank you for giving Karamoja space in your program.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to have you this morning, and of course I decided to start with that good song called Karamoja Lives Matter. Yeah. Who sang it?
This song was sung by an artist. He goes by the name Kiddy Face, that is his stage name. He's a guy from Acholi Land. But I sponsored the song. And
he's from Acholi Land?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason behind this initiative is it was at the height of the raiding in the land. So many people were being killed. So many livestock were being stolen. This was on a daily basis. And this song is a passionate appeal for a government response to the people suffering. Because at that time there was no military deployment, but the raids were like at the peak of it. So I thought that I should send a message both to the raiders, the criminal elements in the region, but also to the state to listen to the cry of the people of Karamoja.
That's very important. Yeah. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Ojok, you are a lecturer from Chambogo University, and of course I know that you come from Karamoja, and specifically in Abim. Now, the rest of us who do not know Karamoja or who don't go to Karamoja, and I'm now talking about majority of Ugandans, I know, but I'm talking about the majority of Ugandans who think Karamoja is I think, a dialect or a tribe of sorts. What's Karamoja?
That's a good question, and I hope I will help those who do not know. So, Sam, I would like to look at Karamoja in two dimensions. Karamoja, the land, which is a geographical location found in northeastern Uganda, comprising of 9 districts and a number of ethnic groups.
9 districts now.
Yeah.
The latest being Karenga.
Yeah. But my interest is to talk about Karamoja as a phenomenon. Yeah. So there is the Karamoja.
There is Karamoja, the geographical area.
The geographical
but there's
area.
also Karamoja now, the phenomenon.
The phenomenon. And I would like to, Karamoja as a phenomenon can be unpacked in many ways. First, as a phenomenon, Karamoja stands out as Uganda's longest puzzle without a password. We have grappled with the Karamoja question from time immemorial, without finding a tangible, lasting solution. From the colonialist to the independence time and the contemporary time, we are still grappling with the issues of Karamoja. And the issue being a puzzle in that no regime has come out with a magic bullet to the Karamoja question. I would argue that the Karamoja problem has eluded all regimes, meaning that the problem has persisted to date from time immemorial. And I would theorize that it is not so much because of lack of capacity to address the Karamoja question, but rather an issue of interest, an issue of politics and public policy priority. So I think that as a puzzle, it has not received the required policy priority. It has not received the required political attention. And therefore, this has led to what I can now legitimately claim as a form of neglect.
Question is it because of the geographical location, or is it because of the ethnic groupings amongst them that nobody is getting a solution to?
Yes, the Karamoja phenomenon is definitely linked to the Karamoja location, and especially the climatic conditions, which has imposed on the people a very hostile, very harsh way of life because of unreliable rain, dry land year in, year out. There are people are grappling with climate change shocks. So most of the problems that the Karamoja people are grappling with, especially the livelihood-related issues, are climate change shocks. So you cannot fight climate change shocks with just the gun. But they are trying to cope using the gun. And that attracts a certain response from the rest of the country. Yeah, and then the Karamoja phenomenon also, the other face of it is the portrayal of Karamoja and the people of Karamoja as problematic, as trouble causers because of the raiding practice. Now, what comes with looking at the people of Karamoja as problematic or trouble causers is that what goes on in the region is seen as internal, as their problem. And to a certain extent, little is seen to be done because it is looked at as people who are killing themselves. And then, of course, it brings into a lot of problems whereby until this insurgency spills over to the rest of the country, usually the immediate neighboring communities of Tesolang or Acholi, then
most affected.
It does not become a national issue. For as long as
it doesn't spiral, it doesn't spill over.
It spills over.
No, but as long as it doesn't spill over.
As long as it doesn't spill over,
it
is
just
a
becomes
Karamoja
a
problem,
affair.
a Karamoja affair, requiring no political intervention, no military response. So in most cases, Sema, even the media is quiet on what is going on.
But does the media even know what is happening in Karamoja? Because it's very unique. And I know why I'm talking about this is when you look at Karamoja, I have personally had an opportunity to be to Karamoja, to be in Karamoja. I've been to Moroto, I've been to Napak, I've been to Kangol, a few places in Karamoja.
Yeah.
And it takes time to actually understand what Karamoja actually is like. And what I want to hear or know from you is, first of all, the situation where we are in now as Karamoja.
Yeah.
How did we even get where we are now? And what do we need to do to get where we are? Because when you talk about the neighbors, the Tesoland, you talk about Acholi and Nango, you will see some semblance of some interconnectedness. Karamoja is not very unique that the people in Karamoja are totally aliens from anything else in this country.
No.
There are linkages that you can see this and that, you know, that interconnectedness. But the issues of Karamoja seem to be very detached from the rest of us and very unique. And that's why you're saying even the media has not done much to sensitize the people about the issues of Karamoja.
Yeah.
How did we even get where we are now?
So how we got where we are as a number of factors. The first one is the issue of cross-border security. We are neighboring Kenya and South Sudan. And in these two countries, there are armed and hostile communities that also practice raiding. So we have not attended to the border issue. And that brings two problems. One, the insecure porous borders are a source of armament of the raiding communities or the raiding elements in Karamoja itself. So they engage in gun trade with the Takana in Kenya and those in South Sudan. So that is one issue.
Keng, I think they could be the Keng or something.
And then the other issue that the not attending to the cross-border issue brings is the issue of threat to livestock. Because these communities, one, they launch raids on the Karamoja communities and make away with their livestock. But also there's now a new phenomenon where the Takana, for example, form alliance with an ethnic community within Karamoja to go and raid another community in the region. Now, this was worsened by the incomplete disarmament approach. Why do I say the incomplete disarmament?
We didn't complete that?
Yeah, there are two things I want to point out about the previous disarmament exercise. First of all, I should acknowledge it was, to a large extent, successful because it brought short-term peace for around 10 years. There was peace in Karamoja, but there were problems. One was the issue of mindset change.
That's a very
we removed the gun, but we overlooked dealing with the gun mentality. The gun mentality is this habit, this predisposition in the mind of the gun holder that he needs the gun to hunt for the cow.
To fend for themselves?
Yes, which is the cow is the basic source of livelihood.
For them?
For them. So after disarming the region, we needed to deal with the disarming of the gun mentality. Because without the gun mentality...
We simply took away the guns.
We took the gun but left the gun mentality.
We retained the mentality.
Yes. And this led to, one, improvision of the gun. Because the gun holder can now use the arrow, the spears, and other gun-like tools
for a gun now.
To go and commit atrocities. And then it led to the urge to acquire the gun.
From elsewhere?
Yeah, because the gun mentality is still there. Then the second issue with the disarmament was not attending to the livelihoods issues of the region. Remember, due to the climatic shocks I talked about, the region is ridden in perennial hunger, in acute, actually pervasive poverty. Until recently, Karamoja was top of the country in poverty. I'm actually surprised how actually took over Karamoja. So after removing the gun, there was need for a holistic intervention in the region, addressing, among others, the livelihoods problems of Karamoja. And then SEMA, there was the other issue of premature withdrawal of security personnel from Karamoja. LDUs at some point were withdrawn. Presumably because we celebrated early, probably at our success, that, it's done, and we hang the boots, call back the forces, integrate them into the army.
We'll take a very short break and return thereafter. Let's just take a very, very short break, less than 1 minute, then we return and continue the conversation of the issues in Karamoja, and we, of course, return thereafter.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Thank you very much and welcome back from that short break. My name is Jagan Semakula Ziksok and we continue that conversation talking about beyond military deployment, and we're looking at the issues and the situation in Karamoja. And with me in studios is Dr. Patrick Ojok. He's a senior lecturer at Chambogo University, but he's also the team leader of the Karamoja Mentoring Network. It's called Karamoja Mentoring Network. Here is what's going on in Karamoja now. Let's now know who the victims are, the perpetrators, and of course, what is the state of security like in Karamoja?
Thank you so much, Semakula. What is going on in Karamoja is that there is lawlessness.
In Karamoja.
Criminality being committed by hardened criminal elements who are in a mission of raiding communities day in, day out.
And these are from within.
And this, by the way, started, I must emphasize, the raiding stopped for over 10 years in Karamoja, but resumed immediately. The guns, the security personnel were withdrawn. The paramilitary home guards who were deployed in places like Kabim, where villages were armed with 3 guns per village. And around 2017, these home guards were disbanded, some integrated into the army, and others sent home barehanded. Immediately this happened throughout the rest of Karamoja, the criminal elements resumed raiding. This started.
So they're only just waiting for an opportune moment,
exactly,
for them to get back into their own old ways.
As if to say so. So around 2018, we started hearing sporadic cases of raids using the spear, using the arrow. And these gathered weight slowly. One thing that happened was that the government did not pay attention, or rather downplayed this. And this continued to grow up. And you may remember that last year, I think it was during the State of the Union address, all Karamoja members of parliament opted not to attend the president's address and went on a full-blown mission. I think they call it the caravan, the peace caravan, led by the MPs. It was a kind of fact-finding mission to establish what is happening in the region and to make an appeal to their people as their leaders, and then come back and report to the government. Now, the MPs made their report and made an appeal for immediate response to kill this raid at its initial stage. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and the raiding escalated to full-blown proportion. So as we talk now, there is every day multiple raids happening everywhere in Karamoja. You talked about the perpetrators and the victims. Yeah, first of all, I want to correct another issue related to the Karamoja phenomenon. The culture of generalizing everybody in Karamoja as a raider, as a killer. That is wrong. There are definitely communities in Karamoja with more raiders. Like if you go to, I don't want to mention specific ethnic groups because that can sound and turn to other people.
And it can also cause problems.
Yeah, so there are communities where there are armed fellows who go out and
How many ethnicities do you have in Karamoja?
I don't have the fact.
Okay.
But then there are the victim communities. These are Abim people, they are a Luo-speaking group who are positioned in Karamoja, and then Karenga. They are defenseless because they don't own guns. They don't attack any community.
Yeah, because I also think I had the member of parliament for Karenga saying, you people, we are in Karenga and we are the victims of this thing.
So Abim is perennially on the receiving end of the raids. And the raids have evolved from initially targeting cattle to now torching and burning of huts. And how do they burn? So they come to the kraal and find it locked, and then they order the occupant of the huts out to come and open
The kraal.
the kraal. And if you refuse,
They
and
touch
in
it.
most cases people refuse, they just set the hut ablaze because our people are still poor. Many of them still build huts with the grass. So there are many huts that have been set ablaze with
So
the
making people
children
rendering
and the
them-
women inside.
Making them, rendering them homeless and even causing...
Homeless and so on. And then there is the issue of roaming the hills, roaming the bushes, making movement to the gardens extremely risky and dangerous. So people actually stay indoors in spite of the raining season. Okay? And then it has also upgraded to break in. But in Kabong and Kareng, I've heard of shops being broken into by the raiders, and that's a new dimension of the raiding, cattle rustling. And then I would like to point out the issue of socializing young children into raiding. I cannot forget this image of someone who turned out to be a student of a secondary school in Kabong who was chased to look for tuition, and then in that period ends up being dragged into raiding and was shot dead in the process. And his pictures trended with wearing the Patriotic Club uniform. Now, why I point out that element of using children or young people is that is going to guarantee an intergenerational transfer of the raiding mindset. Even when the current adult raiders become old, they are sure of another cohort who will continue with
Take
the
over
raiding.
from them.
And that's where we must be concerned as government, that we should deal with this raiding issue, the mindset. So where we are is actually that the region is insecure. There is now a spillover effect into other regions, other neighboring communities, and this has sparked what I call hate and ethnocentric hostility from other communities who now feel that the whole of Karamoja is hostile to them. And at some point there was a move to attack people from Karamoja who are traveling, people Karamoja who are studying in institutions in these neighboring communities, and even within the region there are inter-ethnic hate reactions. You find one ethnic group that feels that they are being bullied by the other, now hating collectively everybody from the perceived raiding community. So this is where we are with the Karamoja, and of course not forgetting that all this is happening without timely military response. In most cases, our local leaders have been turned into military personnel. I know of a LC3 in Abim district.
Exactly coming to that particular issue of the leadership.
Yeah.
And we talk about, because in this country, we can have a district that has no, that has no district education officer or even DHO. We can afford to have a district without a DHO.
Yeah.
But we cannot afford to have a district in this country that has got no district chairperson, that has got no LC3 chairperson, that has got no council, that has got no nothing. All these elected leaders, the people that come from within ourselves, are virtually everywhere.
Yeah.
And my biggest issue here was actually coming to the local leadership, and I want us to talk about that.
Yes.
Because towards the end of last month, we were at Soroti University in Soroti. And the president was launching the compensation for the restocking for Acholi, Lango, and Teso sub-regions. And of course, the talk there, the conversation was how bad Karamoja has actually devastated these other areas. You could hear people from Katakwi, those in Ngariam, those in those other places. Of course, talk about how the raiders come from Karamoja, those the other side of Acholi, in Lango, all the neighbors there. And of course, all of them say our problem is Karamoja. And like you said, we generalize and think even the victims in Abim, the victims in Karenga, because they're in Karamoja, then they're all part of this. Where are the leaders? Where are the local leaders? We have the Karamoja Parliamentary Group of Forum, the caucus. You have a representative at the Central Executive Committee of the NRM, the ruling party. I think it's called Simon Peter Aleper. You have all these, and we're only trying to think, there is a minister for Karamoja, there is a state minister for Karamoja, there are all these things. Where are the leaders?
Thank you. So before I touch on the exact question of where are the leaders, I would like to make it very clear that security is a public good.
It is a public good.
And it is a preserve of the state. It is a constitutional mandate
It's
of
a monopoly
the state.
of the state, yes.
Yes, it's actually a state monopoly, and the state is bound by the constitution to provide and ensure
Security
the safety and
of
security
persons
of
and property.
person and property. And this is what is being violated daily in Karamoja. Now, two, where are the local leaders? The local leaders are there. Actually, I sympathize with our local leaders, because what is happening is that they're elected to advance policy agendas on which they contested, but now they have no room for strategic planning and thinking. All the time they have is to chase after
Raiders. Because you have 9 districts in Karamoja.
Yeah.
9 districts have 9 women members of parliament.
Yes.
9 districts have quite a number of other constituents MPs. So you have a whole lot of about 30 possibly.
At the same time, I'm not here to give a blanket cover of leaders. I have to say, whereas our leaders, especially the national leaders, have tried to voice the Karamoja problem, I feel that they could have done more, because the Karamoja question remained on the sidelines of the national political agenda for so long. Even in the media discourse, it took the murder of geologists, by the way, for the Karamoja question to gain wide media coverage.
And attention, yes.
And even for the other political party actors to comment. So there is still relative silence and lack of politicization. And I think it is our Karamoja leaders, the national one, who should be the frontliners here. I want to hear them shout every day, everywhere, using any avenue to talk about what is going on, the gruesome human rights abuse that is happening in the region. And then at the very local level, sub-counties, some councillors are doing a very tremendous job. I was about to tell you about a mayor in a Abim district, in a town council called Morolem. Every night, this guy has turned into a self-made soldier. Actually, before the military deployment, the mayor of Morolem Town Council, he has been, by circumstance, turned into a self-made soldier, commanding local people, young people, with no military background, to defend the East Sub-County against military attacks. We have had the unfortunate case of the vice chairperson LC3 of one of the sub-counties in Kotiro district ending up in the mess. I would like to strongly condemn this act. It is not exemplary. It is very unfortunate. But at the same time, this case should not be used to make a general conclusion about this many national and local leaders from Karamoja who are doing a good job. For example, MP of Woman MP Napak is really doing a commendable job of blowing the whistle, engaging in public debate about the Karamoja issue. The MP Batom, I think from the side of Karenga, is doing a tremendous job. The chair of Karamoja parliamentary group, Honorable Remigio, is doing a good job. And possibly with this kind of stamina coming, we will be able to see more local leaders joining the front line and defending. But the other point I would like to make is that I think government needs to invest deliberately into utilizing the local leadership structures in the region.
Local leadership structures?
Yes, especially at the LC 1, 2, and 3 level. Because these people,
and that's why the government,
many of them come from these communities where the raiders steal animals and take the animals too. What are they doing seeing these animals, stolen animals enter into their community and keep quiet? So this is where we should all demand action from.
Why do they
but
take,
not just demanding action, but they need to be empowered. Why? You cannot come out unarmed, and not defended, and start facing the gun holder to demand accountability for stolen animals. So these people need some kind of empowerment. I don't know what model the government should come up with, using the local leaders as collaborators in ending cattle rustling in the region, because they know these guys. They can even pinpoint. Even in the if any disarmament exercise is to be there, these are the folks at local council, parish, and sub-county, which the government should deliberately empower and collaborate with.
The general thinking is all Karamoja is comprised of pastoral communities. That's the general thinking. Is that so? And if it's not so, what do the others do? And for these now who get into raiding, why do they even get into that? Why are they getting into raiding?
Why the raiding? Okay.
Why the raiding?
Yeah.
And maybe thirdly, why do they even take these things? Do they have market in Kampala? Do they have market in the other side of? Because why would somebody come and say, open the corral, give me the cows, and somebody raids them? Do they take them to have them as their own belonging? Do they take them to the market? We just need to understand these things. Why would they do it year in, year out?
Thank you. Everybody in Karamoja is a pastoral community. That's largely true.
Okay.
Pastoralism is the dominant economic activity in Karamoja. It's dominant. That doesn't mean each and every community, of course. There is where it is more pronounced than others. For example, in Abim and Karenga, we are more of agro-pastoralists. We really cultivate. Actually, Karenga, Abim, Namalu, these would be the food basket.
Is Namalu a district now?
Yeah. It would be the food basket
of the region.
Because they are so fertile, and the rain is reliable.
Yes.
And they just needed a little support from the government in terms of mechanizing agriculture, and they would be able to produce enough food for Karamoja. But they also keep cattle, livestock, especially for farming. Now, why do they raid? From an outsider's perspective, because I'm not a raid, but these have since changed and evolved. Today, in addition to the traditional reason, the customary reason for raiding, there is the commercial element. And this has been part of the cry of the local leaders, that raiding in Karamoja is now commercialized. So you find situations, I don't have proof, where people allege that animal disappeared from protected kraals and they are not returned to the owners. There are complaints about...
So who's in charge of the protected kraals? Government now?
Yeah, of course.
It has to be government.
The forces. Then there are also allegations of vehicles waiting as raiding is going on, and they are seen leaving district borders filled with cattle, heading to neighboring communities, neighboring districts.
I had one of the members of parliament, I think from Karenga or one of the districts, saying, we even have telephone numbers of the dealers in Kampala that they raid, and there's a Semakula in Kampala who actually calls them and tells them, I am sending the car. So as Ojok is stealing from somebody's car, then Jagan is actually waiting somewhere.
This is where Semakula, we need to not only listen to the cry of the neighboring districts, but also pay attention to the incentive that they provide to the raiding in Karamoja, because people in the neighboring districts are buyers of stolen animals. That means indirectly that is an incentive.
It's an incentive.
An unintended incentive.
In that area, Karamoja, Teso, Acholi.
Yeah, there's movement.
There is movement.
Yes.
What needs to be done, and how legal is that?
You get a movement permit.
Once you have a movement permit.
Through the veterinary system.
To ascertain that these are my cows, I'm moving them from maybe this to the abattoir, I'm going to sell them.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes, and we need to mention that there is a booming cattle market in most of the districts in Karamoja. And the buyers, because most Karamoja guys are poor, the bulky buyers come from the neighboring districts. So this is the issue. So the raider with the stealing mentality will go to raid to come and sell and get money for livelihood, and that is the other, and forgetting its potential for transforming the region. So maybe it is time to start to think and ask the question, how can the government modernize pastoralism and transform it from being a source of conflict and human rights violation to a source of a positive source of livelihood and economic transformation of the region.
Okay,
yeah.
Very important. To our viewers out there, we are still carrying on with the conversation of the issues in Karamoja, and of course Dr. Patrick Ojok from the region is with me, born of Abim. He grew in Abim, he's lived in Karamoja, and he knows the issues of Karamoja because this is where he comes from, and by the grace of God he's had the opportunity to travel the world, to study, to understand, and to see and to know the dynamics. And because of that, I'm just giving that brief CV about yourself. I want you to pick a thought on the proposal of compulsory education as a panacea for ending the long, or for achieving the long term peace for the area of Karamoja.
Thank you so much for picking on that question. I think I have some insight on this issue. I have heard the Karamoja Parliamentary Group advance the proposal for compulsory education. I've also had other local leaders talk about this. The issue is what is new. What I know is that UPE under Education Act 2008 is compulsory. So the issue is not the presence of a compulsory education arrangement. There is a law that requires UPE to be compulsory and free. So the issue... So
compulsory education is not an invention?
It's not an invention.
It's not a new thing?
It's not, yeah, it is not reinventing the wheel. It is not new. It is there. The issue is the local leaders of Karamoja must ask themselves, why is Karamoja not reaping or benefiting from UPE and USE as desired and as compared with the rest of the country? And this is my theory. The reason is that there is a high opportunity cost of sending a child to school by the average household, a typical household in a Manyata in Karamoja. What is the opportunity cost? Families rely a lot on the child, especially in Karamoja. The child is the source of survival. You have to go to school, vis-a-vis retaining you for domestic cause and other livelihood-related demands. In most cases, many scenarios are possible. For most households, just stay home because the cost of you leaving home to go to school is too high. In some cases, children are sent to school, they drop out. In some cases, children are allowed to go intermittently. Go today, tomorrow don't go. Semicolon, what is the result? Some of the statistics of educational attainment in Karamoja are prohibitive and alarming. For example, did you know that the literacy rate for Karamoja, sending a child to school, what needs to be done for me, because compulsory education is already in place. Now and there are issues are related to hidden costs in education, which are preventing most households, uniform, books, other fees that schools charge, which the acutely poor Karamoja household cannot afford. And I'm at removing or elevating what I would call the supply side barriers and the demand side barriers that prevent children from going to school, staying in school, and completing school. So this initiative would come with a number of things. One, we could introduce some cash transfer program where families receive some monthly cash transfer, which they use for livelihood-related issues because of the hunger and poverty. Now, this will enable this household to ease the pressure on the child and send the child to school. The other thing is to introduce a kind of scholarship initiative which aims at equipping the Karamojong child with all the school supplies that they would need to be in school and study effectively. This scholarship would target all the hidden costs should be covered in this, or we should just issue a bylaw and prevent schools in Karamoja from charging this hidden cost. But how do you do that? The third element of this education financing scheme would be to introduce a supply side incentive where schools in Karamoja receive a certain money to support what they would otherwise transfer the cost to the parents. Cost of processing internal exams usually are charged on the parents. The cost of uniform, producing the uniform, they could receive this money, and then they could also be given money for infrastructural upgrades.
Are your leaders and members of parliament talk about these things, apart from just talking and advocating for
I think one thing I would like
education?
to encourage our leaders, since this is now the discussion, is to consult with the think tanks around Karamoja, the education professionals in the region. Because now we are each talking in silos. They are talking of compulsory education, which is already there. I'm proposing
because I know you have seed schools there. You have seed schools, you have government primary schools, you have government secondary schools. These are there for children to go to school, but they should examine why they're actually not going to school and why maybe the illiteracy levels are very high. That's what you should be probing into.
It is so high. And by the way, what this proposal I'm talking about, they're tried. It is working in South Africa, it's working in Ghana, and it's working in many other developing countries. There need to be an education finance, a radical education financing scheme for Karamoja. There are a lot of fragmented financing schemes available. One of them is the State House Scholarship, which is given to MPs to give out as tokens for people they choose. Why not put this money together, add another, and create a special education funding trust for Karamoja, and then this is given in a more
equitably to all the districts in there to know how to manage them. And maybe the other thing that you talked about, and which we do not know how to do, is the gun mentality. What needs to be done? Because it's one thing to take away the guns, successfully, but if I still have the mentality of
Karamoja would go a long way to transform the illiterate adults, but also the school-going young people. So it is really connected.
Finally, in just about...
maybe the parish model has that component of mindset change.
Yes, exactly. It's one of the
Could
pillars.
we double the mindset change budget under the parish model for Karamoja, since this is an agency?
As opposed to, first of all, even giving them the cows or the goats or anything.
No,
first of all,
actually, it is not opposed. There must be compensation of stolen livestock in Karamoja property under the government militia. I don't want to point regimes, but they were militia who went there, burned houses, killed people, and subjected people to torture. And then the reigning perennial cattle rustling. Actually, at one point, people in Abim were all Abim people are the first internally displaced people.
Who borders Abim?
There is Lango, Acholi. Those are the bordering districts
of Abim.
So these people, first of all, they are now concentrated in settlements which are near government establishments because they are perceived to be secure when the raiders come. And then too, they lost all the animals starting the 80s. Actually, I see with a kind of, I don't want to call it envy, but for lack of a better word, when I see people who in the neighboring community being compensated, and our people who lost everything since to all insurgencies being left behind in the
Take the government to
compensation
court.
plan.
Take the government to court.
I think that is the next action.
Because the other ones benefited by taking the government to court.
And I should say that, and not to minimize what the people in the neighboring community went through, what we face in Abim, in Karenga, in Ikotido, in Napak, in Nakapirpid, Moroto, we are actually in the hotter seat, losing hundreds, tens of animals. If you value a cow at 1 million, you start to understand the burden of loss our people are facing. Like my uncle, last month, his cow, the entire kraal was depleted. There were 28 animals. If you multiply by 1 million, yes, that's 28 million. Lost in one day, and yet you spend 15 years to stock. This is the reality. So people have actually, virtually every household in a Abim community
so what happened to
can claim to have lost, because this started in the 70s up to now.
What happened to your uncles?
Fortunately.
They came and stole them? They came and raided them?
They stole them. He's a man of God. And story has it that this guy stole the animals, and they called the security forces. They laid 3 ambushes, but they evaded all the ambushes, and miraculously, for some reason, the cows found their ways back home and found people waiting.
They came back?
They came back.
By the grace of God. That man is a
but
man
that
of God.
is an exception.
No, exactly.
In most cases,
he's only your uncle. The rest, the 28
in most
go and go forever.
the animals are swept and maybe
never return.
But in some cases, they are returned. In some cases, some are returned, some are lost. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Ojok, in just 1.5 minutes, what do you think the government should do? What if just government say now?
Let's talk about the current military
what we do. Yes,
deployment.
We end with the deployment.
So the deployment is very welcome, though overdue, but at last it came.
Good.
Now, the deployment will restore hope among our people, will provide the movement security to people. Now they are going to be able to go out to the farmlands and cultivate. The deployment will also help to restore to recover stolen animals. The deployment, you saw that one in Inapak, which was repelled by the forces. Over 200 animals were stolen. When to deal with the gun mentality, so that the people do not again improvise guns or buy guns. After doing that, not after, but concurrently, attend to the porous border issue, as I mentioned before.
Okay.
Without attending to mindset, border, and the chronic illiteracy in the region, our peace effort will be almost wasted. But please, there must be a radical socio-economic transformation initiative targeting Karamoja. This may take a number of years, and it should start with the exploration of the mineral potential of Karamoja. And this should be plowed back into infrastructural upgrade of Karamoja, livelihood support for Karamoja, education support for Karamoja, and of course, above all, I want to see the street children languishing the streets of Karamoja, of Kampala, of Iganga, of Mbale, out of these streets.
And back to Karamoja.
Back to Karamoja to pursue education and be given alternative livelihood support.
And decent lives, of course.
Decent life.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are sitting on
a time bomb.
I walked to the studio and I saw a Karamojong street beggar coming to my window, and I'm not proud to say that. Yeah.
None of us is proud, actually. I'm also not proud to say them. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Patrick Ojok, and I request that we'll have this conversation some other time again. We don't have to stop it here. We want to bank on your wealth of knowledge in as far as the issues of Karamoja is concerned, and maybe we'll continue speaking to government until there will be a problem, rather there will be a solution to the chronic problem like we've diagnosed it. But I thank you so much. Patrick Ojok is a senior lecturer at Chambogo University, but he's also the team leader of Karamoja Mentoring network.
Yeah.
It's called CAMNET. He is born of the region from Abim district in Karamoja, and he's a man who is very passionate about the issues of Karamoja, just like he's passionate about the issues of this country, and just like many of us are. Things that concern you in Karamoja, they concern us here, they concern me as a Ugandan, and of course as an African and an East African. So,
do you have a second?
Say it again? Yes.
Do you have a second?
Yes. In
I would like to tell the government
that
the 10-year peace that Karamoja experienced has been one of its biggest, most lauded achievement for the region. So what is happening is that that single most important achievement is being discounted by the criminal elements, and for that reason the state must go after those elements.
Very good. Thank you so much. And I think the government needs to maintain their the winning mark.
Yeah.
They shouldn't lose that. If this is what the region has actually benefited from, the regime, keep it, make it stay forever, and let it be there forever and for as much as it can be there. Thank you so much. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka. God bless you. Good morning and shalom.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side,